The US dollar is losing its global dominance. Today we're going to discuss what that means and how it might affect your business. My name is Rusudan. I have been working with Nomad Capitalist for the last 4 years, helping high net worth individuals legally reduce their taxes and go where they are treated best. So in today's video, we are going to discuss the reducing power that we see US dollar having in the worldwide scope and why that is happening and how it may affect your business. So let's take a step back and think about how the US dollar was established as an internationally accepted currency. So that kind of derived from the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, where they established that US dollar would be the international currency, and it was pegged to gold. Since 1971, they are no longer pegging it to gold, and they removed that gold standard. The US dollar still maintained power and its dominance and is the established currency for international trade, and all the oil trade and transactions are done in the US dollar. So that gave the US dollar the power that it has now. And now that we are slowly seeing the power diminish a bit, the first thing that we need to discuss is what caused that. So it was established as an international trade currency, and the history of it and the security that it provided meant that even some other countries, like most of the other countries, would hold their reserves in the US dollar, and thus providing the security to their home economies, because the US dollar was so secure and it didn't have lots of inflation or anything like that. And now that we are seeing it slowly change, and there are a few reasons as to why this is happening. The first reason is tensions in geopolitical situation. Right now, for example, we are seeing Russia and China trying to establish their own currency for international trade, and this derives from different things. Like Russia has some restrictions, so they prefer to use their currency because they have limitations to US dollar transactions, for example. And China has a huge economy, and they are trying to establish international trade dealings that they have with other countries in their home currency. The US internal monetary policy. So they have, I think that ever since the economic collapse in 2008, and also during the COVID period, the US printed out a lot more money than expected from them, and it meant that the US dollar also has inflation that was before that not really something that you would think about when you're thinking about the US dollar, because it was a very strong currency, right? And now that they have printed a bit more and they took action, that means that the US dollar loses their value and the buying power. So these are the two things that have contributed to US dollar losing its international dominance. And the other thing is we see lots of different cryptocurrencies that are popping up. So just generally US dollar and the currencies and that we associate with payments are getting a bit more defined, and we have a bit more options. So the rise of the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin has shown us that you do not have to necessarily have a paper money to buy something and have this transaction. So all these three points attributed to the US dollar losing its dominance in the worldwide. And now that we have established that, the next topic that I want to cover today is what that means for your business. And there are a couple of risks that you have to take into consideration. The first one is if you are working in US dollars and if you are receiving payments in US dollars, you actually now have to think about what the inflation for the US dollar is. Maybe the money that you're holding in US dollar is potentially losing its value. And you wouldn't think about that in any other situation. It was never expected of US dollar to do that. It was always the other currencies that had inflation, and then you would mitigate it by maybe holding US dollars because it was a stronger, more stable currency. And right now we're seeing that it's not. So the first thing that you have to think about is the inflation for the dollar currency, and maybe you need to hold different types of currencies right now, right? Or maybe you need to even hold different types of assets, maybe real estate, maybe gold is the answer to your question. Okay, I have money, where do I put it? Because if I keep it just in US dollars, and even if I have a term deposit for my US dollar, maybe it's losing its value quicker than it's gaining the interest gain for me. So think about maybe diversifying your portfolio and holding gold or maybe holding real estate or some other investment options. The other risk that you are facing right now because of de-dollarization is that the international trade that we are used to seeing, it was all done in the US dollar. So right now maybe you are seeing that your vendors want you to pay in other currencies, so you are not holding that currency. So the planning in that regard really mitigates your risks, and maybe you need to reconsider your plan with the vendors for international trade. In some cases, some business owners think about international trade is like, okay, I need to have US dollars, I need to pay everybody in US dollars, and that's kind of like a given. So give yourself a bit more room to reconsider that, because this may not be the case today, and it may not be the case in the future. You need to be more flexible, and maybe just thinking like maybe holding some other assets in some other currency is going to help you mitigate the risk and the losses that you may face with holding the US dollars. Right now that we see what are the potential risks for your business, there are a couple of key points you can take action on that will help you mitigate those risks. So the first one is multi-currency bank accounts. Should have different types of multi-currency accounts, not only US dollar, but euro, Great British Pound, and maybe some like a bit more exotic currencies, even Chinese yuan or Singaporean dollar, the currencies that have proven themselves to be strong enough where you don't have to be looking at like rate every day, because they are not prone to changes in the currency exchange rates, but at the same time they are diverse and they give you the diversity as well as security while you're holding assets in this currency. The other thing that you can potentially do is just not hold US dollars or any other currency for that matter, and hold different types of investments. Like you can invest in real estate, you can invest in gold, you can invest in even arts, like things that are not directly tied to currency volatility and currency exchange rates. You can diversify your assets, you can hold multiple currencies, you can hold like different types of assets, and also as a last resort, you can think about like emerging markets, countries where they are trying to attract investors, so they are more open to new businesses, therefore they are more open to new banking opportunities. Like you can open a bank account in like, I don't know, Georgia or Panama or some other countries where they are not the countries that come as a first thought when you're thinking about diversification, but because they are trying to be more open to new businesses, they have like very good features, and they maybe have good interest rates on even US dollars, and that's going to compensate what you might lose by the dollarization. Or maybe you can think about like what is the next Singaporean dollar or like US dollar in general sense, where you think about like what are the emerging markets and what are the economies that are growing so fast or so securely that they will provide you with the stability of the currency, and you just holding the asset right now will make sure that you're not losing anything on exchange rates or inflation. For example, in Southeast Asia, we see a huge movement towards establishing their own currency, local currencies, as international trade currencies. That means that more than one country is okay with dealing in, like, let's say, a specific currency, and it means that they have support from their economies where holding this currency will ensure that it's not going to lose the value over time. Just a few key takeaways from the topic of de-dollarization. So there are some risks that might bring to your business. The first is inflation. The second is currency exchange rates and the loss that you may suffer because of that. And the last one is the international trade and what changing the currency of the international trade may bring to your business if you're dealing with your vendors in US dollars, or your clients are paying you in US dollars and now you have to pay to the vendor in a different currency. So those are the risks and things that you have to plan for. And now as a solution, there are a couple of actions that you can take right now to make sure that the fact that the dollarization might have on your business is not going to be huge. So the first thing that you need to do is diversify your currencies, like have different currencies, not only US dollar, but other currencies. And to do that, you need to have multiple currency accounts. So you go and open not only US dollar accounts, but also Euro accounts, Great British account, maybe Singaporean dollar account, Chinese yuan account, Japanese yen account, like different, like diversify, of course, not like out of the thin air, but just think about what you might need in the future, or what are the currencies that will not lose their value over time, and just keep them as an investment. The next thing that you can do is hold not only money, but like gold, real estate, or different types of other investment opportunities, even arts that just comes to mind. So this will help you be dependent on the currency market as much and be more diverse. I hope that now you are equipped with enough information to make sure you can implement some of the mitigating factors in your business and make sure that the negative effects of the dollarization are not hugely impactful for you. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.